All right, so
Perfect.
this the
First ever
yeah, this is the
podcast.
first episode of the Math and Physics podcast. Let's do the introductions, I guess. I'm Parker, and you're
And I am Ray.
Rayhan. Yeah,
Wait.
so um we're both first year. Well, we finished first year at the
hmm
University of Toronto, and we both are in the Math and Physics program.
Yes, we are. It's been quite a ride so far. It's been a crazy year. What about you? What do you think, Parker?
Yeah,
How has your math and physics year
I
been?
mean, I really liked like the program and the courses we had to take this year. But obviously with like the virus and everything, we had to go home and do our exams, and I prefer going to class and going to like lectures and actually listening to the
hmm
profs over like watching live videos and stuff. How about you?
Absolutely. I definitely agree. Like going to class and being in there is very very different from just sitting at home and even taking exams at home very different from taking it in class.
Yeah, true.
Now, even though there were actually quite a few places where U of T went quite easy on the
Yeah.
students and gave us a lot of leg room to play around a bit, and I really appreciated that from them. But I would still much rather have preferred, obviously couldn't be possible, but much rather preferred an in-class session, which would be a lot better,
Yeah.
I guess, especially because it's our first
Yeah,
year.
me too. So continuing with like the introductions, like what are you gonna go into second year and beyond?
Okay, good question. So second year, so I plan on taking a physics specialist degree, and I am extremely excited for it. Obviously, I've just touched the surface with the first year finally finished, but I still have a long time to go, and I think I'm going to continue with my physics specialist. I'm going to see where it takes me because as of right now, there are a lot of options available. So I'm just looking into that. And for my undergrad, I think I'm pretty much going to be sticking to physics. How about you, Parker? What
Yeah.
about you? What do you
No,
think you're going to be
on what
taking
you
in
said,
second
like
year?
I found that like pretty funny because like having finished first year, it's when you realize like how little you know. Like when we touched on
That
like
is so
quantum
true.
mechanics, like we literally did quantum mechanics in one dimension and it was so hard. Like
I agree. I agree.
so I don't know. We have to take like a quantum mechanics class next year, and like I can only predict, we're gonna do like 2 dimensions, maybe 3 dimensions, and we're gonna actually start doing like imaginary, like the imaginary parts of like the wave equation and stuff like that.
hmm
Which like we were presented the idea this year, but we didn't actually like do anything with it. He like Julian
That
was
is
just
true.
like, oh, so there's like an imaginary part, but we'll just ignore that for now.
He
Pretend like there's only a
completely
real part.
ignored it. Exactly. And I think that's mainly just because we're first years.
Yeah.
So I think like with time, especially in second year, I think we're gonna get a lot more used to that kind of level of math.
Yeah.
And I think then we can, really start with some fun stuff.
Yeah.
Like maybe integrating imaginary and complex functions.
Yeah. I mean,
I think that would be pretty
I'm
cool.
excited for like thermodynamics and quantum mechanics next year. That's gonna be super
Oh,
fun.
yeah, but it's also gonna be super
Yeah,
hard,
it's gonna be
which
hard, but
obviously we're
man,
ready for.
like I mean,
It's
I think
it's gonna be a
every
ride.
year is gonna be hard, like no matter what. So
Yeah, that's very true. Especially actually, U of T, University of Toronto, especially because I've heard that second year is a lot harder than the first because that's when they're trying
yeah,
to really take out the people that are not fit for U of T,
yeah. I mean, I'm
and
getting ready
that's
right
yeah,
now,
it's
like
pretty scary.
getting mentally
hmm
prepared to like just work.
hmm
But I mean,
Because a lot of people are like, oh, I got into U of T and it's easy from here. That's all I needed to do. But they don't really realize that, especially with University of Toronto, they don't really just want to accept you. They want you to be a part of it in a way where you have to deserve it. That's why
yeah,
they really make it hard on you, and I really appreciate it in a
yeah,
way.
I agree. Yeah. So myself, I was initially gonna do a specialist in astrophysics, but like having finished my
I
first
remember.
year, I was doing research on like the courses I have to take and like the workload and everything. And I realized that like the specialist program is going to be really intense And so I did a little bit more research,
Hmm.
and I decided to switch from astrophysics specialist to a major in physics and then a minor in astronomy and astrophysics and then a minor in Spanish, just because, because
Wasn't
just
there a
because I
small
can.
period of time when you wanted to do a physics specialist?
I don't think so.
Was there not? Oh, maybe that was
Yeah,
Aaron.
probably.
I think that was Aaron. I think that was Aaron.
Yeah.
And now he is taking a physics
Oh,
specialist
he
in that.
is.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
no, because originally he was taking a physics major, and now he's into the physics specialist.
All right, that's great.
So yeah, he's with me next year, pretty much. That's
Yeah,
gonna be fun.
yeah, we're gonna be in the
So
same math
Parker, tell
class
me
and
this.
same physics
Oh
classes.
yes, that is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
That is gonna be fun. So Parker, tell me this. How did you get into physics? Like,
Um,
what made you? What inspired you to, get into physics? Like, why
yeah,
physics out of all the
yeah.
possible courses?
Honestly, it was because of like my high school courses, because
Mm-hmm.
um, initially I was taking like in grade 10 I was taking like all the sciences. Grade 11 I dropped
Mm.
biology because I was like I really don't want
Oh,
to do
me too.
biology.
Me too. Me too.
So, and I actually like in grade 11 I actually did really well in like chemistry and in physics. I was like the top of my class in chemistry. But when I got to, yeah, this is actually a pretty funny story. I don't think I ever told you this, but when I got to grade 12,
Hmm.
I dropped all of my sciences and I was going to go into business. So,
Wow, I did not know
yeah,
that.
yeah, my first semester I had zero sciences and just math because that's all you need for business. And then second
Uh-huh.
semester, when I was looking up like programs and stuff, like that I could apply to. I was looking at U of T and I was like, man, like astrophysics sounds like super dope. And I realized that I didn't have physics. So the next day
Oh,
I went to like the lady that does your courses and I was like, "Yo, can you add physics to my thing?" Cuz that's the only like requirement that I needed. I just needed physics and
yep.
math. So, like the next day I got physics added to my next semester and I applied for math and physics at U of T and like completely switched my like career path.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is the story of why you never took grade 12 chemistry.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to take it anyways,
Interesting.
but
Oh, okay.
like I don't know.
Oh, I actually never knew this about you.
Yeah, I
So a
know.
big career
I
change.
I don't really like remember that like often, but when I do it's kind of funny cuz it's like, man, I was about to go into business like
That'll be a very different time for you right now.
yeah, I mean, I'm glad I
Imagine.
did do the switch because I absolutely loved first year and like just
Hmm.
calculus and physics is just so cool.
Oh, talk about calculus 137 at U of T.
Man,
What do you think?
man, 137 super interesting, but just so
Hmm.
different to what like any
So
high
so
school
different.
like any high school
So
class.
different.
It's like it's hardly calculus the whole first semester like man,
Because
just yeah.
137 is mainly just all about proofs and
Yeah.
not really
Well, it's not
any
all about
computations.
proofs. It's
Okay,
like
and as I
halfway,
said, not
right?
100%, but like a lot of the course is pretty much about proving things.
Man, like when
And
we were
in high
doing,
school, we just never did that.
yeah, like when we were doing like epsilon delta proofs, I was like, bro,
Oh,
what the what is going on
oh
right
my, that was very interesting. Because as you know, I have done those before.
now?
Because
Have
I
you?
used to have a YouTube channel,
Oh
remember?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
thought
so
you
I've
meant like in
already done
school.
epsilon delta. No, no, I've already done epsilon delta, but when it actually came to proving things and not just explaining it, it was
Yeah.
a world of difference.
Yeah. And like
And I found that very interesting.
the first example we did was like a linear function. And we're like, okay, that's it's like kind of easy because your delta is gonna be like some like integer multiple of, or not necessarily integer, but like let's say it's like f of x is equal to 2x. Like it's gonna be an integer multiple of epsilon, right? But then you
Yeah,
get to like functions like 1 over x squared, and then you have to take like minimum, like delta is equal to minimum of
they just
some
get
like
they get
yeah,
crazy.
it gets
They get
super
absolutely
confusing.
insane.
Delta proofs get like not
Yep.
so easy.
Any rational functions, any crazy functions, it gets crazy because of
I mean,
minimums, and then you have to learn about supremums, and
like
sometimes it.
learning about it is
Yeah,
like hard to wrap your head around, but once you kind of have it, it's not that difficult. Like especially if you
it's
know,
still, yeah.
like if you know the limit doesn't exist, like you can kind of like you can set up your proof in a way that it's like, oh, I know that epsilon has like if epsilon is this, then it won't work, and then you just go boom and then prove that it doesn't work
I
and it's over.
I guess that could be true. Yeah, that is true to a certain extent. But then sometimes, especially on exams and especially midterms, exams not really,
Yeah.
mainly midterms,
Yeah,
when they really screw you,
like thinking
like
on
some
the
of the
fly.
epsilon deltas,
I don't know.
exactly, are they're pretty hard to do because you can't even imagine what the limit looks like in some functions.
Yeah,
So you
that's
don't even
true.
know if it exists or not. So you're starting from rock bottom and you're trying to make it work.
Yeah,
So,
that's really true.
sometimes it can definitely be challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with the end of 137, I think that was pretty satisfying with the integrals and really understanding how integrals and derivatives work
Yeah,
together
like
and stuff
I
like
came
that, especially
into
proving it.
I came into first year not knowing how to do integrals like at all. And
Hmm.
I actually really appreciated how they taught us integrals. Like we went through the whole like formal definition. Like we started with like infimum, supremum. Then we
Yeah,
went to um
Riemann
like yeah,
sums.
no, first we did like sigma notation. We saw that, and
Yeah,
then
mainly just
we did
starting.
Riemann sums, took the limit of like the mod of the partitions that goes to zero, and then
Hmm.
did like what is it, upper sum, lower sum, and then integral, and that like really solidified like the idea of an integral, which is cool.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. I think they explain it really well. And especially because a really interesting thing, if anyone is interested, all the Mat 137 videos are available on YouTube,
Yeah, anyone could
which
just go
is
watch them.
which I think exactly, which I think is really informative and would have definitely helped me before I began 137. Like if I was a prospective student of U of T, I would definitely want someone to
Yeah.
tell me that, hey, listen, you can search up the entire course on
Yeah, but
YouTube.
yo, you gotta be careful though because the first unit of like 137, like if you
Yeah,
watch the videos for the first unit, it's such a catfish because they'll
that is
be like,
true.
"Oh, this is how you do a proof." And then they do like the easiest proof you've ever seen, and then you go to
The
like
first unit.
you look at the
Yep.
midterm and it's like, yeah, it's the same like fundamental idea of a proof, but like the questions they're asking are like much harder than what they're doing in the videos.
That is true. That is true. But no, but mainly the videos, as I said, just would be helpful for a prospective student, looking to come at U of T
Yeah.
before he actually starts the course to see, if he or she enjoys it. I think that would be a great way to start, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that. So yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah, go
mm,
ahead.
yeah, so just mainly just completely changing the topic and going back to our old topic, the question of where we really began to see physics as a suitable career,
Oh yeah,
and actually,
I didn't even say anything about that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So just what inspired me, and I think the biggest thing, I think Parker knows this, and unfortunately still has not watched the movie called Interstellar. Now it's incredibly sad that Parker, you have not watched this movie, but it is a
I'm getting
phenomenal
there.
movie. Getting there very slowly. It's a phenomenal movie, and it's pretty much what got me into physics in the first place. It was pretty much because after I watched the movie, I still remember this day. I was with my parents, and I asked my dad a few questions because there were a lot of things that I didn't know, like how could black holes warp time, and how did time interfere with spatial dimensions, and I had all these questions. And then my dad told me the best thing I've ever heard. He's told me, look it up on Google. And I think those words is what
Damn.
inspired me to become a physicist,
And then you
because
found
the
Khan
moment
Academy.
exactly, because the moment I looked up stuff on YouTube, recommended searches started popping up, and I just went into a stream of just enjoying what I was searching up pretty much. And then Khan Academy. When I found Khan Academy, I was extremely obsessed. I was friendless in Canada because I moved here 3 years ago, and pretty much for 6 months, all I was doing was Khan Academy, and that is what got me into physics.
Damn.
So
Well, for
yeah,
me,
I've big props.
yeah, like I was saying, like what got me into physics was like my high school courses because like
Mm-hmm.
I remember like in high school you learn about like kinematics and stuff like that, and you're like, yeah, this kind of makes sense. Like it's all math, like being applied to the real world, and then
Yep.
we got to the special relativity unit, and I was like, man, like this kind of doesn't make any sense because like how can time be different if you're going at a different speed and stuff like that. But then I started understanding it, and what happened was that I remember this one example that my teacher showed us. She's like, yeah, GPSs, like the satellites, have to be adjusted, and like you can get like what they have to be adjusted by, you can calculate that with special relativity. And I was like, wait, like this isn't BS, like
It's
time
useful.
actually like slows down,
Yeah.
and you like we actually have to like apply it to the real world, like with a GPS example, and I found that really cool. So
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't enjoy physics until you give a real world example. And I think that's actually like especially like really complicated physics. Like for example, if I were to try to explain to someone who, doesn't have any knack for physics or anything, and I try to explain to someone how quantum tunneling works,
yeah.
probably wouldn't, fully grasp it. But if I
Yeah.
say, hey, listen, imagine this, an electron is on one side of a wall, and there is a small chance that it can be on the other side of the wall,
They'll be like, what the
then they would
what are you talking
exactly
about?
then exactly then that is when their mind would start to be, really grasping the concept of this, because once again you've applied physics to a real world example. And I think that's where physics truly comes out to be one of the most enjoyable subjects. Obviously incredibly biased on my side, but I
Yeah.
think you agree with that too, as well, right?
Yeah. And like if we look back at like our high school math courses, like to me it was so easy that I was like, man, like I can just like it's not only easy, but it's also like mildly interesting, but it's not as interesting as it could be because it was so easy. So
Yeah.
I also had like a really deep curiosity where I was like, man, like how far can this go? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Because like in high school, everything is just coming and going. The math isn't too difficult, and then what 137 hits, and the world gets turned upside down.
Man, one thing I know I've told this to you before, but like linear algebra 223, I really really enjoyed that class.
Oh, absolutely! It's so interesting.
Yeah, the one problem with that class is like you have to memorize like the definitions, which I think is so
Yeah,
stupid, but whatever.
the definitions are a little bit extra,
Yeah.
and some might say unnecessary. But 223 overall is a really informative course, I think, because like it kind of shows that anywhere in the universe can like the same thing, like for example change of basis. We were talking a little bit about this before the podcast, and like how we can apply any coordinate system perceivable, and we can apply that to a simple coordinate system here on earth, and the same rules apply, and we can calculate a lot of different things just by using change of base coordinates. So that's where I think 223 can actually really help in real life examples once again,
Yeah, and
and I
I
think it's really
actually
informative.
I really liked how they like structured the course too. Like they literally start from like zero and go all the way to like eigenspaces and stuff like that,
Mm. The
which was
eigenspace is really cool. Yeah.
like the first half of the semester was a good like review, and then after
Hmm.
you get into like change of bases and transformations and stuff like that. And
Did you take calculus and vectors in high school? You did, right?
yeah, could like the my calculus class was like I don't remember, like 8 units or something like that. The first
Wait.
six,
So did you do vectors?
yeah, like the first 6 units was calculus, and then the last two was like
Mm.
vectors and then like intersections of like planes and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty much the first half of 223 you had already
Yeah,
been through.
yeah, I already knew like
Exactly. Yeah.
projections and stuff like that.
I know, because in the beginning I had the same view. I was like, this is a pretty simple course. It's just, revision. And then after the midterm, then After the second
Yeah.
midterm, actually, that's when it really started to pick up and completely unknown territory
But
started to
it
hit.
also it doesn't even go like that far. I don't think so. Like null space and like what's it called? Like null space, row space, column space, stuff like that. It's not even that hard to grasp.
It's not that hard to grasp. That's correct, but it's all new territory. It's something that you've because the entire first half of the semester you have been enjoying it because it's so simple, and then you just get hit with these new words, these new concepts like
Yeah.
eigenvectors and eigenspaces, and there's all these new concepts that you've never been introduced to before, and a little bit of you is like, oh shoot, I actually have to start studying now,
Yeah, like
or at least a lot more.
you know the three blue, one brown linear algebra
Oh,
series he has?
I forgot to watch that video, by the way.
It's a oh no, it's fine. But he
Yeah,
has a
sorry,
whole
continue.
series. He has a whole series on linear algebra, and it's not as good. I mean, like the whole visual part of it is amazing, but
Mhm.
like it's not as good as actually going to class and like doing
Mhm.
problems and stuff.
Yeah.
But like he says like he explains concepts in such like a cool way, and like he codes everything in like Python, I think, and like the whole visual aspect to it is really good. And it's a good like introduction to maybe like watch before you go into like 223.
Yeah, Three Blue, One Brown is actually really good. Do you actually remember that one time that we watched that 25-minute general relativity
Yeah.
visual? Oh, that
Yeah.
was that was
Bro,
prime.
I didn't understand anything past
That
like
was
2
so much
minutes.
fun. I love that video. It was like a 25-minute video
Yeah.
that we were watching. I know that's I think it was like Eugene videos or something. The graphics were spectacular. I think like it
Yeah.
was a really nice visual.
Yeah, it
But
was animated like
yeah, there
but
were
that takes
some
so much time.
exactly, but there were some times when I'm like, oh wow, okay, this is a little too much, but very
Yeah,
interesting nonetheless.
I didn't I mean back then that was like what like a month ago or something. But
Hmm.
I didn't really know anything about tensors or anything like that. So
True.
as soon as they started talking about that, I was like, man, I'm not
Yeah, I
super
know it
ready.
was a little confusing. So, what do you think about 151 versus 152? I'm talking physics 151
Yeah.
versus physics 152. What do you think are the differences, and like are both recommended, you think,
In
for
terms of
physics?
content, they're completely different,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And what do you think about them? Like, which one did you enjoy more?
I liked 152 better. It was
Okay.
like it it uses like somewhat the concepts we learned in 151, but like honestly I just prefer like electromagnetism and like fluid
Mm-hmm.
dynamics and waves and stuff. I prefer that
Mm-hmm.
over like kinematics. So
I
to me it
agree.
was just
I
more
agree.
interesting.
I agree because 151 was very similar to grade 12 physics, but obviously, once again, a lot harder. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, mind you, but it was the concepts were very similar. And
Yeah.
once again, as I said,
And
like yeah, questions were harder, but concepts very similar.
yeah. And like one thing I remember like this was like the first like couple of weeks of class, and he was doing some stuff like he was deriving like the kinematic equations with like integrals and stuff, and I was just sitting there like
Oh,
man like I was just not ready to see the integral sign like before
I
I even learned
remember.
it in
I
math, you know.
remember. I know he started the integrals quite early on in 151, but I think it was
Yeah.
still an enjoyable experience.
Yeah,
151
like
was still pretty cool. Yeah.
I learned integrals in physics like
True.
before learning them in math.
True.
And like obviously I didn't like learn them like super thoroughly, but I kind of got like the general idea even before we started like looking at integrals in calculus.
Yeah, that's true. And talking about calculus, so what did you think about semester one versus semester two? What did you enjoy more, derivatives or integrals?
And integrals were a lot better. Like
A
the
lot better.
midterm was super easy. Oh, I mean,
Oh, okay,
like
okay.
super
By the way, the
easy like
context
in
is
my
because
perspective.
exactly because you did well on that one midterm.
Yeah.
That, by the way, just on the record, I was not present for. So just
Okay.
saying that, but just to make sure everyone
All
knows, I
right.
was not present for that midterm. But continue.
But yeah, so first semester, the midterms, man, the first midterm was like what, like a month into
Brutal.
like our university experience.
Absolutely
And it's like
brutal.
you show up to the midterm, man. I was sitting there blankly staring at the pages. I I wrote down what I could, and yeah, I just remember the questions being like super like general, and like you really had to know what you were doing, which I
hmm
didn't. So I mean, I passed, which is nice, but yeah.
Yeah, the amount of knowledge on the concepts that's required, I think, is really deep in the midterms, especially because the midterm they can really grill you on the small parts, like that they can't do
Yeah.
in the final. So I think it's a big difference. Yeah, so for
Yeah, that's
me, I
true.
personally think 152 definitely because it's just uncharted territory, things that I've never done before, and some really interesting things as well, especially the quantum mechanics unit, by far maybe my favorite physics unit so far. Very
Yeah.
interesting, very well taught, especially by Professor
Yeah.
Julian,
Yeah,
and
it
really
was really well
enjoyable,
taught.
really well taught. And with
Yeah, it
137,
sucks that we had to learn like half of it on
yeah,
online.
unfortunately, very
Yeah.
unfortunately, the quantum mechanics pretty much was all online, you know,
You know what I
because
actually
it was the
really
end.
liked? I really liked the photoelectric effect. I don't know why,
Oh
but
yeah, I mean
like
it got
the
him the Nobel
idea,
Prize.
yeah, yeah. But no, not like I'm not talking about like the idea of the photoelectric effect. I'm talking about like when it was presented to us in class.
hmm
Like I really understood how like electrons can like absorb a photon and gain like a set amount of energy, because there's like
Yeah,
like the minimum amount of energy that a photon can carry, or like not like a photon can carry, but like
yeah,
you
yeah,
can
like
go
the
from
energy.
0 to
Yeah.
1, like
hmm
there's no in between. And so depending on the energy of the photon, like will the electron be able to go across,
hmm
like depending on the change in potential, electric potential between the two plates and stuff like that. I really like looking at it, and like learning it in class. I didn't really understand, but looking over the notes after, I was like, man, this is pretty interesting.
Yeah, the photoelectric
Which
effect
is
is
like,
yeah pretty cool.
yeah,
But once again, if you had taken grade 12 chemistry, then you would have learned the entire concept of electrons absorbing photons and jumping energy levels. You remember that
yeah,
1s, 2s, 2p stuff?
yeah,
Yeah, that's all from the chemistry, right? And yeah, like so in the beginning when I saw it, I'm like, hey, listen, this kind of looks like chemistry. So I kind of got a little recollection, but then once again, when he started getting to more physics, I was like, okay, I have to pay attention. But photoelectric effect was really a really cool concept that I think he
yeah.
once again explained beautifully.
But my favorite unit by far, like all
Mm-hmm.
year, my favorite unit out of
Okay.
any course
Okay.
was electric fields and Gauss's law, 100%.
Ah, interesting.
It was so cool to see like to see like, obviously we started with like a point charge, and then he's like, man, okay, so the electric flux is equal to Q enclosed over epsilon naught. Like, we're not going to go into why that's true, but just know it is true. And then we started like deriving electric fields for a bunch of different charge distributions. And then, we tested the far field limits and we're like, hey, a lot of this stuff kind of looks like a point charge when you go to infinity, which makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I know it. The okay in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie. Also because in the entire Gauss's law period, I was not present for class. So I think it was mainly because of that I didn't fully grasp the electric fields unit and didn't really enjoy the Gauss's law part because I still remember coming back from India talking to you and Aaron about Gauss's law. I was so
Yeah.
confused. I
Yeah.
had no idea what was going on. So
Man, the
that's maybe the
lectures were
reason.
so cool though. You actually missed out. Like, the lectures were like, I mean, obviously not once in a lifetime, but
Yeah,
like just being present and having like Kushner like explain like the whole like, and he was like drawing like 3D like Gaussian surfaces and
you're
stuff. It
just
was
making me
super cool.
jealous right now. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wish I could be there. Unfortunately, I
Yeah.
couldn't. Anyways,
Yeah, and they don't
so
even record the lectures either,
yeah, I know.
which sucks. But
Okay, so it's actually been 30 minutes of our recording.
All right.
And I think we've pretty much spoken about U of T, spoken about
Yeah.
what we enjoyed as our first year. And I think we can just talk a little bit about what the future of this podcast can look like. Maybe we can use that to wrap it up. What do you think, Parker?
Yeah, so the this first episode was just kind of like an introductory episode.
Mhm.
We just talked about university and stuff, but episode 2 and on, we're going to talk about like various subjects, like interesting subjects
Mhm.
that, maybe don't have any like real connection to the world, but more like philosophical meanings that we can just talk about and, you know, really just talk about anything physics, math, or space,
That would be really
universe,
interesting.
whatever.
Yeah. We have a long
Yeah.
time to go, so this was just an introductory segment, kind of to get to know us and what we feel about the university we're studying at. And just, as I said, an introduction. So I think this went pretty well.
Yeah, I think the podcast went pretty well. Like the conversation is fluid,
Hmm.
there's no like weird pauses,
No
which is good.
unexpected. Yeah. Perfect.
And like we talk about physics and math like all the time,
All
and
the
like
time.
we never like run out of things to say, which which is
No, but
you
that's
know
actually a problem. So that's why it's hard to keep it under 30 minutes. Because
yeah,
if we go
it's hard to
on,
keep it under 30 minutes,
we
but like we can always just like end the episode,
that's
start
true.
another episode, and like make it like a part 2 or
That's true.
whatever.
That's true. We always can. We have long time. This is just our first episode beginning into the world of podcasts. So yeah, we got a lot of time here.
All right, awesome. So I guess I don't know how often we're gonna do this, but I
Let's
mean,
uh
I
let's
guess
let's just see how it goes. First episode. Let's
yeah,
make a
try
few
like
more and let's
once
see.
a week maybe,
Sure.
once a week, I
Yeah.
guess.
Sure. Why not?
Maybe more often because we have like nothing to do, right? Like in
Quarantine.
the
Yeah. We
quarantine,
don't have a lot to
like
do. We can
yeah,
we can
maybe
talk
like
about many
once every
things.
like 3 days. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a lot
Anyways,
to
we'll
talk
we'll
about.
see how it goes.
Yep.
We'll see how it goes. All right.
Okay.
So I guess we'll
So
end it here.
yep. So signing off. This is Ray.
Yeah. All right. This is Parker. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
See you soon. Bye bye.